Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about my Chainbreaker Cyclone Impale build, specifically the Impale budget version. Ever since I released the cold version of this build, I wanted to make it work for lower budgets as well, which turned out to be very hard to impossible while still scaling cold damage. But with the help of our good broken friend Impale, we managed to scale the core of the build down to less than 50x while still being fast and doing tons of damage. Big shoutouts to the Neo 2007 for providing the gear and input on the Impale version, giving the build a better, realistic budget while still keeping the core of the build intact. This build revolves around the Chainbreaker keystone, coupled with 6 unwavering focus medium cluster notables and the tireless cluster on the tree. Since both unwavering and tireless cluster do not specify mana or life cost, you can reduce the rage cost that the Chainbreaker keystone bothers you with to 0, basically negating all of its downsides. That opens you up to scaling mana regeneration that is being converted to rage regeneration to give you a way higher berserk uptime than initially intended, giving you massive multipliers to attack damage as well as attack and movement speed. While being nerfed, the explodey mod on your chest slot still helps a lot in clearing packs more efficiently, especially since Slayer gives us a lot of generic area of effect that is not specific to melee only, therefore making your explosions even more relevant. I was really surprised by how well this build was able to function on a more realistic budget, and I hope this version will make a lot more people consider the build. With that being said, let's get into the build portion of the video. Alright, so before we get into the items, I want to quickly go over exactly how this build functions, how it gets the rage, how it gets the berserk uptime, and that is through this keystone here, which is Chainbreaker. Now, Chainbreaker has 3 lines that are all important. The first one is regenerate free rage per second. Now, this basically means that this is your new base regeneration rate. And then the second row, increases and reductions to mana regen, instead applies to rage regen. Now, this means that your base regen, which is 3, gets increased by all the increased mana regeneration that you have on gear or on the tree. So, for example, if I have 100 mana regen, base regen is 3, now you have 6 regen per second. And the same goes on for 200%, 300%, and so on. And then there is the downside to this, because the first 2 are big upsides. The downside is skills cost plus 3 rage. Now, with a fast-hitting skill like Cyclone, you couldn't keep this up. It would basically be impossible. So what we can do instead is we stack this notable times 6, which is unwavering focus. It gives us reduced cost of channeling skills, which reduces it in total by 90%. And the last 15 or 10, we only need 10, but we get 15% reduced cost we get from this cluster here with tireless and the small nodes, which bring it down to 0. These do not specify, as I said in the intro, these do not specify mana or life. So we can just reduce the rage cost here. And yep, when we hover over it, we don't see any rage cost. If we hover over this, because Berserk isn't a channeled skill, we see it also costs free rage. So yeah, that's basically the thing behind that. And why that is so good, so you can see I'm standing in our hideout and we have 50 Berserk, 50 rage up. Like, it doesn't degen, which is what rage usually does. I don't have to hit anything. It's just, we just stand there and we get the movement speed, the attack damage, the attack speed every time. So that alone is already really, really nice. But the big thing is Berserk. So Berserk is less damage taken, which is huge. More attack speed. These are all more multipliers. More attack speed, more damage with attacks. Just everything you would want in one package. And now when I press it, you will see I go big, which is the side effect of Berserk. You can see that it trickles down, but it still goes up because Rage increases its consumption the longer it goes. So at the start it pens at 50, and now it slowly goes down until it reaches 0. And at that point, the cooldown begins, which is, I think, 3.4 seconds in this version. and we're back to full, and we're doing it again. And there you go. The uptime is around 15 to 16 seconds in this build, so you basically have like a 90-ish% uptime with this, and it is just crazy good. So just to go over that, don't be like confused why this build has mono regen all over. So I just wanted to point that out real quick. All right, so we are a Slayer. Now, for me personally, a good Cyclone build has to have two things, or actually three things, but let's start off with good movement speed, really good movement speed for it to feel smooth, good AoE for it to feel smooth. Otherwise, if you're in an open area, it's kind of gonna suck for you. And third, also decent to good damage, which this build all has except AoE. And AoE is impact. So this is the node that also gives you the AoE to kind of complete the trifecta here. And this gives you accuracy rating, which you really need, melee strike range, which for Cyclone is AoE, that's 32 AoE. And then you get 5% increased area per enemy killed recently, up to 50%. Combined with this, that's another 60%. This also scales with the Exploding mod on your chest to give you better explosions. So yeah, for this node alone, I would only go Slayer. And the only other alternative would be like a Berserker. But the thing is, all those rage nodes we don't really need, because we don't focus on the rage itself. We focus on the Berserk. And so making the rage stronger basically doesn't do anything for you, because it's just going to tick down all the time. All you need the rage for, it's nice when you have it, sure, but all you need it for in the end is for Berserk uptime. That's the thing. So Berserker doesn't really fit this niche. And yeah, also Slayer just has Overleech, which is so nice to play with. It has 10 reduced damage while leeching, which is always up. And we obviously have the crucial thing here, Headsman and Bane of Legends, to give us insane single target damage with the call, and also give us attack and movement speed to round out the build. So yeah, for me personally, Slayer, an absolute must-have. Also, if you haven't seen my other version already, I made a cold version of this build, which is a lot more expensive, where I also talk a lot about intricacies of the build. This is the budget version, which I wanted to get down to at least like 50x or lower. But as I explained, going even lower isn't really possible in a build like this. The amount of speed you get here, if it was that easy to get, everybody would do it. So it has a certain cost attached to it. I just want to point that out. But I tried to make it as budget friendly as possible, and we'll go over the items next. First up, the weapon. In this version, we are using a staff, and that's pretty important for a few reasons. Number one, we just get really easy access here on the passive tree to really great crit nodes. And secondly, you want to scale block. Since you can't really get to phase acro, some kind of avoidance is really nice. And staffs gives you that because it has an implicit of either spell block or attack block. I usually would go for spell block because we already have blind. We're using flesh and stone. So it's really, that already helps against attacks, but it's really nice to have something against spells. But if you don't really have the decision over that, just go with whatever staff does more damage. This one cost us, I think, 14x. Yeah, 14x, he said. 14x for this one. Now, staffs are also really nice because they give you free endurance charges. It gives you extra melee strike range, which is more AoE. And you also get these nodes up here, which is Serpent Stance, more block, more crit. Really easy and nice to gear. Nothing much to say. As much physical damage as possible. A crit roll, an attack speed roll, done. As for the chest, he really ripped this one. He got incredibly unlucky. Neo basically Waken or Orbed the attack crit with the enemies explode, the exploding mod, and he got like all crap mods, but he had a space to craft life, so that's that. This one doesn't actually cost you much. You have to awaken or you have to Maven Orb the explode mod, and then just get the crit. This is not Maven crit, this is just a normal crit, because the extra explode is actually really valuable, but the extra crit is probably not worth the price. So just go with a normal crit and then see whatever you get. Like here you see there's like no stats on here. Build still works fine, more than fine. So exploding mod, attack crit, really nice to have. Now, next up, the helmet, which basically has nothing other than nearby enemies take a 9% increased fizz damage. This was made with jagged fossils, so you just spam jagged fossils until you have like decent res, or accuracy is also really, really good, and a space to craft life, or you have life and a space to craft res, whatever, just some kind of useful stats. And if you hit the nearby enemies, take a 9% increased fizz damage, that's really, really good. So you want an Elder base. Also, the buff effect is really important. Berserk has 30% increased buff effect. Just take whatever helmet for that. And yeah, if you don't want to go for the nearby enemies take increased damage, it's not that important. Might be hard to get the base with Elder Influence. I don't know. Just go for whatever. Accuracy would be really, really nice. This build is very accuracy starved since we're not going through all the decks over here. But yeah, so boots, these are basically just made by Awaken or Orbing Tailwind with Elusive, then seeing whatever comes out of it. Now, if you have two prefixes open, like this one here, the movement speed cannot be chilled. You get from an Iceling Veil, which costs you like 4x on TFT right now, and then you craft on Cannot Be Frozen and you're done. If you don't have the Cannot Be Chilled, it's not that important. The Cannot Be Frozen is way, way, way more important. Other than that, you can even go for more budget boots. This build, as you see, it has a lot of speed, so you can downgrade that to your budget needs. But it was in our budget, and we did focus movement speed. So yeah. As for the belt, now something that didn't fit into the budget that I set for this, in total, this all costed 47x. What wasn't in the budget, unfortunately, was a Torrent's Reclamation. This would make you even faster, so if you have the money for it, or if you already have it, really great. But we just went with life, res, Stygian Vice, that's it basically. Then you put like a jewel here. Would be nice to get even more accuracy from this, but yeah, life accuracy, pretty good. But if you can muster the currency, definitely go for a Torrent's Reclamation. Next up, the glove slot. Now, there's two options. Its Series Securities with vulnerability are actually pretty cheap right now. I bought these for 3x. Now, it fixes all our int issues, gives us a little bit of crit, a little bit of life. And the nice thing is it gives us Volpact, which is obviously great. But the thing is, Volpact isn't super important for this. You're not going to get hit a lot. And if you are, chances are you're going to regen it up anyways. But you are a Slayer, so Volpact is nice to have. So you can either go for these. The thing is, it's a little bit late in the league. People might not be online with their vulnerability at Series Gauntlets, and you do want the vulnerability. So if you cannot get that, simply buy one of these. The Synthesis Implicit is pretty cheap. You just buy this, then, I don't know, slam on any essences or chaos roll or whatever your heart desires. For these gloves, like you want life, if you can accuracy. Dex also helps. We're pretty dex starved. We need some dex in total. And yeah, you can craft on damage while leeching in the end. It's really, really strong. You can also just go for res here. You can juggle it around however you want. Now, as for the rest of the gear, let's go through the jewelry, and I think, oh yeah, and the flasks, right? And the Watcher's Eye. So first up, the Watcher's Eye, the only mod that matters is Impales. You inflict, deal 2 additional hits while using Pride. We are using Pride. This is a really, really crucial mod. It gives you like 30% more damage. This Watcher's Eye costed like 7x. So you only want this one mod. Don't even think about any other mods. These are super expensive if you want to get a second mod. So just stick to this one and all will be fine. But you really should get this. It's worth the money. As for jewelry, now jewelry is very flexible other than one thing. You want to get as much mana regen as you can. So for example, like here, we would prefer to have mana regen, but it's not in the budget. So we just went with this mana regen here, as much as you can get your hands on. For the Chainbreaker here, to have smooth Berserk transitions, to have a lot of uptime. You will see the difference for sure. We don't have any catalysts on these. If you had the life catalysts, which are really expensive right now, if you want to put 20 catalysts on, that's like 2x or something. So we didn't put it in this version. but you can upgrade this, then you get even more life and more mana regen, of course. But yeah, so what you want here is so if you use Ethereus Gauntlets, you're going to be fine on int. Otherwise, you will want to get int from somewhere here. You will want to get at least one dex roll, a high dex roll. The worst thing that can happen is that you have to take like a dex node, but I'm just going to say it up front. Also, what you need is flat accuracy, resistances. You can get whatever on rings. It's really, really flexible, and you always want to have a life roll. We do not have really space for a chaos or something, so we definitely want to go for as much flat life as possible on our gear. As for and anoint, anoint we have tenacity. So this one costs 2 golden oils, so it's going to cost you around an X. I think it's worth it. This gives you transfiguration of body, which means you get your percentage max life is converted into increased damage, which is really, really good, and a little bit of life. Other than that, a little bit more budget. E would be discipline and training, for example, but it doesn't give you any damage. So proceed however you want. You can go for whatever. But yeah, so the flask setup, we want to go for as much movement speed as possible. So Alchemists of Adrenaline. Then we are actually using a Roomies to get a little bit more tanky. You can also go for a more damaging flask. We did not include Bottled Faith in this build because Bottled Faith costs a lot, and we wanted to get that currency elsewhere because it's better there, better used there. But Roomies is really, really nice for defenses. You're really not going to die with this build at all. Now, Lion's Roar is just more damage, absolutely mandatory for this version of the build. Now, Diamond Flask, you want remove curses somewhere, and then we have a Basalt Flask of the Order to give you more crit chance. If you don't have this craft, you can buy it from somebody. It's pretty cheap. Now, I want to mention here we don't have bleed immunity here, and that is simply because on our lethal pride we have corrupted blood cannot be inflicted on you, and since we're a Slayer with Overleech, I personally have never come across a situation where we really need anything against bleed. I'm just going to be honest. You need something against corrupted blood, don't get me wrong. Corrupted blood is rough. So you need this somewhere on your jewel. If you have it on any of your jewels, you're done, basically. But if you don't, replace this craft here with off staunching to make you bleed and corrupted blood immune. So that's basically all I would say there. And next up, let's go to the gem section. We're using a Divergent Cyclone. Divergent just means that you get less multiplier to your movement speed while cycloning around. It's not that big of a deal. This one is a budget version. This is a 15 quality. Somebody bricked this, so you get a little bit of the more movement speed, but not all. If you want to get a better version of this, it will cost you a little bit more, like 2 to 3x more, but it didn't really fit into the budget, so do as you please with that. We have a Awakened melee fizz damage. We have 2 Awakened gems here. This is the only one that I would really, really get, and that is because you get the Intimidate on hit here from the quality, which is huge. It's always up since we're hitting so much with Cyclone. Then we have Awakened Brutality, not totally necessary. You can go for the normal version, but it fit into the budget, so yeah. Then Infused Channeling, always nice. We have a lot of channeling effect here, increased effect of infusion here. So in the end, this comes out to a lot more damage and a lot better physical defenses. Anomalous Impale. Now this one gives us more chance to impale and impale effect. Now chance to impale is pretty important since we don't get to 100 without it, obviously. Then we have Anomalous Pulverize. This is just to get even more AoE. The normal version, I think, is area damage. This gives us even more AoE, so it's really, really nice to have overall. Since we're staves, we don't need Fortify in this setup, since we get that from, where is it, up there? Yeah, it's from the Overlord Notable. So yeah, we'll go over that in the passive tree section in detail. But next up, we're using Divergent Smoke Mine. Now, the reason I don't have this in a fancy setup, like in the cold version of this build, is because you need to reserve mana to cast Divergent Smoke Mine, And if you have it supported by Enhance and Empower, we actually cannot cast it because we're so tight on mana. So I just put this is basically a 0 link. These don't do anything to it. But yeah, so you basically just want this in a 0 link. Then we have the combo of Ancestral War Chief, Ancestral Protector. Normally you can only put down one, but if you have multiple totems, you can put down both. So we have that for single target, which is really, really nice. As for auras, we have Pride, since we need it for the Watcher's Eye. We have Blood and Sand for more area damage against bosses. You can switch between Sand and Blood stance, but if you're mapping, you just go with Sand stance and you get massive more multiplier to your area of effect. And Flesh and Stone is just really, really nice for the blind around you while mapping, and against bosses you get extra damage. We couldn't really fit in the MAME with the Flesh and Stone, so you can pull things around. Maybe you have the gem space for it, maybe you have the reservation, I don't know, but we couldn't really figure it out, and Enlighten to round it up. As for the 6 link, the second 6 link here is definitely not needed. It is just that the Astral Plate already came 6 link, so might as well. And this is just a setup with Enlighten, Empower, and Enhance. And we have Anomalous Blood Rage here, which is really, really nice with the Enhance to give us a lot of chance to gain a Frenzy Charge against unique enemies. Now, I want to say this one costs a few exalts. So if you're not bossing a lot and you're killing things all the time, you can definitely skip out on the Anomalous Blood Rage and just put in a normal one. It will give you more attack speed from quality. It will cost you basically nothing, like 10C for a 20 quality one. And you can save a lot of expenses there. But if you're bossing a lot, it's really, really nice to have Frenzy Charges up against them. And then, like I said, Enhance, Empower, Enlighten. And then we have Divergent Dread Banner, which is really, really nice. The Divergent means we get more chance to Impale instead of Impale Effect, which is needed in this build to get to 100%. So we have that in there. It also gets boosted by the Enhance to give us even more Impale chance. And in the end, we also have Berserk, which gets its quality boosted and its level boosted, both by the Enhance and Empower. As for the passive tree, the most important thing to realize is that you need to get to 3 large cluster jewels in total. So that means this one here, and this one up there. These need to be reached before you can work with this notable here. And that is because you need this times 6 plus this whole cluster. Then the build can start to really go rolling. So whatever you take, only take anything after you took all of those cluster jewels. Now, these cluster jewels that I have here with Martial Prowess, Feat of Fury, and anything else, these cost like 70C to 1x, depending. And the only thing that's expensive here is this cluster jewel, and that has Overlord and Feat the Fury. Now this one costed 8x. I don't know what it is right now. You can also go for something else than Feat the Fury. It's probably going to be less expensive, but I wouldn't really cut on this one. This is pretty important. Overlord gives you Fortify, meaning you don't have to run Fortify support, so you can get you can run the Pulverize for more AoE. So in my opinion, very, very worth it to get. These mediums cost like 50C to 100C, depending. Always hard to say with these builds, especially late in the league. But what you want is Unwavering Focus. This has to be on every single medium cluster jewel. As for the second one, it's really quite flexible. But Rapid Infusion gives us Effective Infusion, which is nice, and increased movement speed, which goes well with the theme of the build. Other than that, what's interesting here? So you can put Chainbreaker either here or up here, depending on whatever the notable is that you get from this. So as you know, Chainbreaker, the Lethal Pride does kind of change the nodes around. So for example, here it gives us plus 20 strength on top if we took this. Here it gives us 20% burning damage or whatever. Whatever is better to put, it's gonna basically modify Ophidian Aim here, which we take, and it's gonna modify Forceful Skewering. So whether you put it here and take the keystone here, or you put it here and take the keystone here, just depends on what your Lethal Pride gives you. Other than that, we took Brinkmanship for some nice AoE. You can supplement Dex if you need to. this is really, really necessary. If you want even more damage and you don't want to go tanky, you can remove life nodes and just go here for even more crit. I didn't really feel like it was necessary, and I wanted the extra life. Obviously, the staff nodes are incredible. Crit, chance to block, attack speed, cast speed. Melee range is huge. Getting free endurance charges is huge. Just overall, really, really nice. Serpent Stance, absolute no-brainer. Nice thing is we're pathing up here, so this alleviates a lot of the int issues that we have. And yeah, as for the normal jewels, we went for 3 stats, and we went for life, crit multi, and then either more crit multi or attack speed. 4 stat jewels are too expensive for this version of the build, so we didn't really go for that. But very often what you can do is you can get 3 good stats and then just a random res on top, and it's not going to cost you much more. So always look out for that. You can also fill in for some decks. You can just basically get whatever. Sometimes you get chaos res. So yeah, that's basically the passive tree right here. Now in this section, I'm going to go over real quick what you can upgrade this build to next. It might be that this is actually too budget for you. Maybe you're somewhere in between where you say the coal version is too expensive, but this version, I have more currency than that. What would you upgrade first? Now, the first thing I would always think about upgrading is the staff. So this one is pretty decent. It costs 14x already with the 6 link included. But if you can increase your damage by like 10 or 20% by putting another 10x into this and then reselling this one, I would definitely go for that first. But if your step up to the next staff would require you like 30, 40x, I wouldn't advise to do that. But do that on your own caution. So Torrent's Reclamation is a big one. We have pretty decent life. This build is really tankier than it looks like from the life pool here. It has so much less damage taken from Fortify, from the Berserk, which is with the Helm enchant, even more less damage taken. We have the 10% less damage taken from Slayer. We have endurance charges with the staff node. It is just incredibly tanky and a lot tankier than it looks here. We have roomies, we have whatever. So I would say Torrent's Reclamation is a big one. Also for Flasks, I would say Bottled Faith is definitely a good investment. What I will point out with Bottled Faith though is if you're mapping a lot, oftentimes Bottled Faith is actually fake DPS because you're spinning around so fast that even though the consecrated ground is really big with Bottled Faith, you're just gone away and you're not going to press like Bottled Faith every second, even if you could. So it's really good boss damage in the end, but for mapping it doesn't actually do that much. So yeah, do that on your own volition. Now, Anomalous Blood Rage, if you don't have it already, like I said, it is in the budget of the build, but prices always fluctuate, so I want to include it here. It's a really, really nice boon. And also a big one is the jewelry. So it could be that you can only cap your decks and your resistances with gear that doesn't have perfect mana regen. You definitely want to correct that if you can. So one of the things is get life and mana quality. So the Fertile Catalyst right here, where is it here? These ones here, if you put 20 on, that gives all the life and mana modifiers on your jewelry 20% increased effect, which goes for the mana regen and for the flat life, which is huge. And on the amulet, if you have mana regen in the implicit, mana regen in the suffix, and life, it also boosts free stats. So that's really, really good. It wasn't in it for the budget, but just something to look out for. Now, what you can also do in the end is improve your chest. So that means you actually get additional curse on this chest, which is not that as hard as you might think. So what you would do is you awaken or orb together additional curse plus the explodey mod. These are both prefixes, and then you get whatever third prefix there is, and then you craft the suffix slot, and then you can go harvest, reroll, crit, and you can hit the attacks have additional crit chance and have the additional curse on top. This will probably cost you like 20 to 30x, maybe even more, because the explodey mod, if it's elevated, also will cost you even more. So I would only do this if you have a good 30 to 40x-ish, I guess, because you could get unlucky. But if you do that, you can put Assassin's Mark in the build on top of vulnerability. And then on top, getting Assassin's Mark on hit is going to be also expensive with a good ring. So that's probably the last thing I would upgrade. I just wanted to kind of go over step by step how you can improve this build if you say it's actually too budget for you. But yeah, now that's it for the build guide. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe. And I might make more budget versions like this in the future. It was actually pretty fun to put this all together. But yeah, let's see. Since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.